The only person in Environment Canada that needs a muzzle is a minister who keeps barking like a prime ministerial pet bull. First, the government gagged Environment Canada scientist Mark Tushingham.
Mr. Speaker, I think we've had full accountability, but, you know, nothing untoward occurred. No favors were handed out. And when you talk about concerns, I look at this entire affair. You know what? There's only one person who's had to apologize under this entire sad episode, this invented scandal in the Liberal Party. Only one person who's had to retract what he did. Only one person who's had to back off.
You shouldn't have to remind the member opposite. It was, in fact, the Government of Canada and the Minister of Foreign Affairs who revealed here on the floor the fact that we had uncovered a credible allegation of mistreatment, Mr. Speaker. That happened. That's undeniable. Let's just retrace what's going on here. We put in place a new agreement. It leads to the ability to discover any improper treatment. That works. We discover that, Mr. Speaker. We suspend transfers. We reveal on the floor of the House of Commons what has happened. We have done everything in line with our commitments to protect individuals and to support the Canadian forces.
The
member opposite has a different view of sovereignty than I do, Mr. Speaker, but we're not going to tell the government of Afghanistan who they can put in place as their officials. We will, however, as we have always done, raise our concerns at the highest levels, which is what I did in November. I spoke to the governor, told him of our concerns, said there had to be action, had to be investigation, had to be changes. I said the same thing within 24 hours to the President of Afghanistan and my counterpart, General Wardak. And that will continue, Mr. Speaker. We have regular contact with not only our own officials, but we have regular contact and raise concerns regularly with members of the Afghanistan government.
There's been a shift in the last year largely due to disaffection with the government. The rising level of frustration at the governance issues that have been raised and will be discussed later is to the breaking point. I mean, people are being brutalized by their government, shaken down by their government, to the point that you have people saying the Taliban prey on us at night and the government preys on us at the daytime. In the daytime, what are we supposed to do? Basically, people feeling caught between, in the crossfire, between two hostile blocs. And there's a certain degree of almost blood feud that's been created by civilian casualties. So I would say that starting in last spring of 2006, when there was really an offensive operation by the Taliban on Kandahar, just to the west of town. At the beginning, I would say about 10% of the people in the field fighting, the armed opponents in the field, were local. That means that others, I'm not saying others were foreigners, but I'm saying that they were from other provinces usually, and you could tell by their accents and even sometimes the way they dress. By the end of the year, the percentage had slipped of locals involved, had slipped to about 30-35%. And that was largely because of the ISAF response was very slow because ISAF was busy in other provinces and things like that. So the Canadian forces simply didn't have the resources to respond early enough that they could do an operation that was not too kinetic. The operation that took place, that was called Medusa last fall, was extremely kinetic and produced a lot of civilian casualties and damage to property. And that also was kind of interesting to watch the slippage in public opinion about civilian casualties. There was a major civilian casualty incident in the beginning of the spring when all of this kicked off. People from my cooperative happened to go to the hospital the next morning. We didn't know about this, but they went to the hospital, and the hospital was just overflowing with wounded people. And interestingly, my cooperative members came back spitting mad. They said, these people, they tell us to stay away from the government, they complain about the government, and then when they get injured, where do they come but to the government hospital? There was absolutely no sympathy or very little sympathy in Kandahar for civilians injured in this battle, which had been recognized as a case of hot pursuit.
Have regular contact with not only our own officials.
Mr. Speaker, this government does not listen to any experts.